Well. Clemson Tiger fans, college football fans, welcome back to another episode of the All In Show right here on the Voice of College Football Clemson channel. Thank you so much for joining us. We got a great show for you guys tonight. We're going to be previewing the FIU game. We're going to be talking a little bit about our final thoughts on week 2 versus Charleston Southern. And everything in between, guys. So get ready, strap in. It's going to be a good show. Thank you for all that are in here right now. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button for us. We really appreciate it. Hit that like button for us too. That helps the channel out. Also, if you want to support the channel in any way, check out the merch store over on the Voice of College Football, the main channel. Also, we have the super chat feature here. Any and every way you support the channel is greatly appreciated. By all of us here on the Clemson channel. So we got a ton to get into today. Thank you all for being in here. Shout out to the chats. We got Alakazam in here with the first comment. Thank you so much for getting in. John Sarian's in here. Big Mix in here. Ted Jackson. The delusional Tar Heel man is in here. How you doing? And then Drew G is in here. Thank you all for getting into the live chat already. We will get to all of your comments in a little bit. As you guys know, as the show goes on towards the end, when we're done covering what we want to talk about, we turn the show over to you guys. Answer all of your questions. Let you guys get any sort of feedback into the show that you want to, and all of that is greatly appreciated, man. So, Jordan, it is already week 3, my friend, of the college football season. Can you believe it?
No, I mean it's hard to believe. I mean, the only way I know that this season is already into the swing of things is my allergies are kicking my ass. So that's
there you go.
That's typically around the time of year when it's towards the end of summer and we're going to start transitioning into fall. It's still hot outside, really great weather, but for some reason this is when it really starts to do a number on me. So if you see me like look away or turn my camera off or something, it's probably because my face is coming off from sneezing.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
Just a heads up. But other than that, no, it's hard to believe. We're already, Clemson season after this weekend, we'll be a quarter of a way through the regular season already. And it feels like we just started. And it kind of puts it into perspective, man. We only get 12 Saturdays guaranteed. And, this is always it's always beautiful when it comes around, but it's the longest off season in sports. And it's a short and sweet, blast. So I'm just trying to enjoy it.
Yeah, man. Same here. We wait so long for the college football season, and before we know it, it comes and goes. It feels like yesterday that we were talking endlessly about fall camp and the potential for the season, and what everything was going to look like. And all of a sudden, we look up, and here we are in week 3, and the season's almost a quarter of the way over already. I cannot believe how quickly it goes. But we're going to enjoy every second of it while it is here. As you guys know, Clemson kicks off this Saturday, 8 p.m. Against the Florida Atlantic Owls. 8 p.m. game. So the first night game in the Valley for the 2023 season. I'm sure it's going to be a great atmosphere. The light show, the fans going crazy. A night game in the Valley is always a great atmosphere, regardless of who we're playing. So I'm sure everybody's excited for the first night game of the 2023 campaign.
Absolutely. And, we'll talk about it a little bit more, but you kind of wish this slot was reserved for another certain game that's happening a week from now. But we can get into that and the implications of the Florida State game and the surprise slot that it's been put in. But yeah, I think this is a great opportunity for this Clemson team to play at night. It's not going to be a overly big environment, obviously, because of the opponent, but it's nice to have those. Anytime you're playing at night in Death Valley, it's a special time. So I'm excited. And this Florida Atlantic team is interesting, and we'll talk about it. There's a couple storylines here. Some of you might remember this is Florida Atlantic's first return to Death Valley since they played back in I believe it was I can't remember what year. Is it 05? I know it was somewhere in the Tommy Bowden era, and that was also the game that was featured in the Disney movie Safety. And I remember I was at the UNC Charlotte game when they filmed the football scenes for that movie at halftime. So this is pretty cool to have that team come back, and I guess it's been over almost 2 decades. So that's pretty neat.
Crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, man, it's going to be good. I do wish, like you mentioned, that this time slot was reserved for a game that's going to be played a little over a week from today, but that's not the case. And the Florida State game is going to be a noon game, which is super weird. If you would have asked anybody heading into the season, that was going to be a primetime game. College Game Day was probably going to be in Clemson for that game, but that's not the case. Clemson did not hold up their end of the bargain. They dropped game 1 against Duke due to a lot of reasons that we've already discussed at length on this channel. But it is kind of, I guess, disappointing that game is being reduced down to a noon game. But again, Clemson's not a ranked team right now, so obviously the Florida State Clemson game is not going to be a primetime televised game. College Game Day is not going to be there. All of the buildup that we talked about in the offseason leading into the FSU game, kind of went by the wayside as Clemson fell in week 1. So disappointing, but it is what it is. Time to keep your head down and take care of business the rest of the way as best this team can. So yeah. Let's see. We got a few more people in the chat. Give a shout out to them. Ted Jackson's in here. LW, Droid, Like Mike, Show Out Gaming. Thank you guys all for being in here. Go ahead and hit that like button for us. Share the video on all your college football forums and all that good stuff. Bring us in some more people to chop it up with about Clemson football and college football in general. But we're going to take a peek back, do a week 2 rewind real quick. We're not going to spend too much time on the Charleston Southern game. We did, if you guys don't know, we do a post-game live video after immediately following each Clemson game. Win, lose, or draw, it doesn't matter. Me and Jordan will be right here on the channel to break down everything that we saw and give you our immediate reactions following the game. So we did that this past Saturday when we played Charleston Southern University. It started out the first offensive series. Clemson drove down, scored a touchdown. Everything looked like it was going according to plan. And then the subsequent 2 offensive drives after that ended just about as badly as they possibly could. With the fumble that was returned to the 1-yard line and punched in, and then the terrible interception that Cade Klubnik has admitted that, himself was terrible, that he threw kind of in desperation. I think he was probably trying to get the ball out of bounds, but throwing off his back foot, falling backwards, the ball just kind of hung up in the air, and they came down with it and got a pick 6. So the first half was definitely more of the miscues that we saw in week 1. And it was a bit concerning seeing, especially if you looked at the stats of the game and seeing the little offense that Charleston Southern was able to muster up. And they were still, they had still put, 17 points on the board. So a little bit concerning of a first half. And then you transition to the second half of the Charleston Southern game. And, the third quarter was an offensive explosion for the Tigers. They 28-0 in the third quarter. They really started getting in their groove. Cade started distributing the ball to various receivers. The running game started popping, and we started playing complementary football for the first time this season. It was really good to see, albeit against an FCS foe in Charleston Southern University. It was still good to see the Clemson offense actually get into somewhat of a groove and actually look like they were executing and doing what they wanted on the football field, which is what we expected last week's entire game to look like.
Yeah, and I think you really got to see some of the bones of what this offense wants to be and wants to look like. I mean, through 2 weeks, it's pretty clear that the philosophy of this offense is to be hyper efficient. Really work the short and intermediate game. They haven't taken a whole ton of downfield shots. Sometimes they've been there when they have and they weren't hit. But I do think this offense is predicated on being efficient. Staying ahead of the chains. I think Garrett Riley has done a good job of creating situations where they get light boxes in the run game. I think you saw even in the Duke game, you saw some open. It seemed like lighter boxes and it was less congested in the run game. It felt like the last couple of years, it's like, yeah, Clemson's run game was pretty good and pretty productive, but it felt like at times there was just a lot of clutter, with the running backs, and there wasn't a whole lot of space to work with. There weren't a whole lot of big chunk runs that were being created, and I think this offense is in a situation to do that. So I think that you kind of saw that, and I thought it was really beneficial to see the Cade really work in his reads in that second half and look a little bit more comfortable. Yeah, David, if you missed, I've got a little bit of the case of allergies right now, and they're doing a number on me. So if I look a little under the weather, it's just allergies.
Yeah. He's struggling with some allergies today, so he's going to be flipping his camera off and on. He's doing his best, but we're glad he's here tonight to help us break down the Clemson Tigers. Just finishing up with the week 2 and the Charleston Southern game. I really like what we saw from the wide receiver core in the second half. I think we started to see a bit better play out of them. It was good to see a Troy Stellato sighting for the first time in a really, really long time in a Clemson uniform. He talked about after the game how it was kind of an emotional game for him running down the hill, knowing that he was going to be able to, play and contribute in that game. And he ended up with, I think, 5 receptions in that game and played really well, 51 yards or something like that. Bo Collins had a killer day, absolute killer day. Antonio Williams was doing his thing. But a couple wide receivers or pass catchers that I still kind of, we're still kind of searching for to gain their footing in the 2023 season is, I think, first and foremost, Adam Randall. I think Adam Randall to date has 3 receptions for 15 yards in 2 games. And then Jake Brenningstool, albeit a tight end, still a pass catcher, 4 receptions for 25 yards. What do you kind of think with those guys? Are they going to be able to get more involved in this offense, or it does seem that Bo Collins and Antonio Williams are kind of emerging as the wide receiver 1 and 2 for this offense?
Yeah, I really think it's. I think these are 2 separate cases, and I feel like they have different circumstances. I think with Adam Randall, I think the thing with him is I think he needs to work on getting consistent separation. I feel like you're seeing the flashes. I think that that they took that shot downfield early in that game, and he just really didn't seem to fight for the ball, and that's not great when you're facing an FCS corner. I know they said that was their best corner. Then he came back and all that, but still, I mean, you're built like DK Metcalf. We've right. heard about you all off season. That's a ball you have to go up and get. I know Cade probably could have led him a little bit better, and we talked about it a little bit, but that's a ball that was catchable, and you got to come down with it. That those are the kind of plays that you're, as a big time Power 5 wide receiver, you have to make those plays. And so I think that consistency and really just, I feel like getting his feet wet, because I mean, I think we have to consider at the end of the day, he really is still kind of green. And considering how little he played last year. And I think he's still trying to find his footing. I think with Jake Brenningstool, I think it's a little bit different. I feel like this offense is kind of struggling to figure out what to do with him, because I think he's a great weapon in the receiving game, and he has a lot of upside there. But I feel like it's this staff doesn't feel comfortable having him out there too often and really getting him involved, because I don't think he doesn't offer much as a blocker. It's not that he's not willing, but he does not have it. I mean, we through 2 games he's whiffed. He's had some really poor moments on film as far as blocking, and I think that's in Garrett Riley's scheme. That's something you have to do as a tight end. I mean, yeah, he's going to use you in the receiving game, but if he can't trust you to be out there as a blocker, then you're not going to get on the field much, because he likes to, have his tight ends be versatile. They need to be able to block and give that kind of ambiguity to the defense about whether that tight end is going to stay in as a blocker, or they're going to go out and catch a pass. And if it's obvious that when he's out there he's going to be running routes, it's kind of a tell. And so I think that's kind of part of it. And I think that's just something that is going to have to develop. I think he'll be more involved, further down the road. And I definitely still am high on him, but I think that's the biggest thing so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he can develop and become, a big contribution to this offense. It's just, it's going to be, like you said, he's really, it's not that he's not a willing blocker. He just kind of doesn't have the size and really the ability to really block on the perimeter of the offensive line. So that is probably limiting him some in the offense. I would like to see him get a bit more involved in the passing department, but I do understand that Sage Ennis is definitely a better blocking tight end who also can go out and catch some passes. So it's probably why they're splitting snaps so many times in a game, and their snaps look a little bit more even than we probably would have thought heading into the season. But those were just 2 guys that kind of stood out for me that I thought would be bigger contributors at this point in the season. We'll see if they get rolling. One of the questions that I posed on the channel, Jordan, I did a short, the first short on the channel, and I posed the question, with Clemson's offensive explosion in the second half, albeit against Charleston Southern, an FCS foe. We get that. We understand that. We've said it a million times. Albeit against an FCS foe, Clemson did have an offensive explosion in the second half. They looked to be comfortable. They looked to be moving methodically down the field. They looked to be doing whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted. And it was really good to see. Do you think that they can continue or parlay that into more success down the road as we go throughout this 2023 campaign? Or was that just simply because of the talent we were playing? Or was that, again, a preview into what this Clemson offense could be heading forward if they continue to execute and clean up those miscues like they did? You look at Clemson's offense, the first, 8 quarters of football, we're riddled with miscues on the offensive side of the ball. And then the last 2 quarters that we saw, I think was, probably a glimpse of what we can be if we take care of the football and everybody does their job and plays their assignment.
Yeah. I still have high hopes for this offense. And I do think what you saw in, those last 2 quarters is kind of indicative of more of what they want to be. And I think that can and possibly will translate, in Clemson's later opponents. I don't think you're going to put up 66 on every team, that's for sure.
Right.
But
yeah,
I think this offense has the tools, and I think you're seeing the what they want to be and what they can be. It really is just about being consistent in the execution. Because if you're going to be a team that's hyper efficient, you're going to work down the field. You're going to stay ahead of the chains, kind of like what Georgia's been the past 2 years. When their national championship wins, I mean, they're not a highly explosive offense, but they were super efficient. They had a quarterback that made the right reads, and they weren't extremely loaded at wide receiver, but they had playmakers there, and they had a run game that really forced teams to respect that part of the offense, and it made everything else click. And also having a tight end like Brock Bowers helps. But
yeah,
I think if you're going to be a hyper efficient offense, you have to be consistent in your execution. You have to you can't be whiffing on blocks. You can't you can't have unforced turnovers. You can't fumble the ball, and that's where a guy like as much as people ragged on him in his career, that's what Stetson Bennett was so good at. Is he didn't make a whole lot of bad mistakes, and I mean. And by the end of his career, he was a very good quarterback. I mean, he kind of I feel like he was kind of a game manager of that first championship, and then his second year, he threw 4,000 yards, and he was an actual playmaker, and that added a whole nother dimension to that offense. But you have to be efficient, and you have to be consistent in your execution, because if you're going to work, a long play, a large amount of plays per drive, like 8, 9, 10 plays per drive, you're going to have to be good at. You're going to get some chunk plays, but you also have to be able to consistently execute the stuff that's going to get you 5, 6 yards, 15, 10 to 15 yards, and not just the big plays, the big 75-yard touchdown. Those are nice, but we don't really have the guys, it seems, on the outside that are going to do that at a consistent level. So you have to be efficient. And I mean, Clemson is top 10. I believe their success rate right now is like 57% through 2 games, which is like good for like 7th in the country. So I mean, they're really good on standard downs, and they're really good, between the 20s. And it's really just about turning those drives into touchdowns and not turnovers, because those are massive momentum swings and massive point swings in a game.
Yeah, absolutely. And you saw some of that get cleaned up in the second half of this game. Every time we got into the red zone, we punched it in and got points, which is, something that we couldn't say week 1. So, chalk that up to an improvement for the offense. And look, I know it was against Charleston Southern, but, it's still encouraging to see the offense operate in the manner that they did, stay ahead of the chains, and really just stay on schedule for several drives in that game. And yes, it was against Charleston Southern, but you got to go back to I can't even remember. I think you got to go back to 2021 versus Georgia Tech, maybe, or even further back than that.
That was the 14-8? Or are you talking about the? Are you thinking? Wait, hold on. What game are you?
I'm trying to think. The last time Clemson put up this kind of points, 60+ points.
Oh, yeah, it had to have been Georgia Tech 2020 when they put up 73.
2020, 73. There you go.
Yeah,
so that's the last time that Clemson, put up points like this. And we've played bad teams and lesser talented teams like we did Saturday, and we've yet to do that. So, I'm not saying Clemson is suddenly world beaters on offense, but we talked about it heading into last week that they needed a momentum game. And the first half was anything but getting momentum on the offensive side of the ball. But the second half rolled around. They got it together. I don't know what voodoo they did in the locker room, but they need to do it every game from here on out, because they came out with a killer mentality. They executed. They stayed on schedule, and they put the ball in the end zone. And the result was what you saw on the field, which was really good. Switching gears to the defense before we move on to the FAU preview. What were your thoughts on the Clemson defense? I think they played really well. They definitely limited the FAU offense to almost no offense at all. They really only gave up 3 points. There's 17 points on the scoreboard. 14 of those are completely on the offense. And then FAU probably had one drive in the game where they kind of drove down and got that field goal. And that was really the only momentum they got on offense the entire day.
Yeah, I thought the defense, played pretty well. I thought they, cleaned up some of the mistakes that they made in that Duke game. I think Barrett Carter played a lot better. Jeremiah Trotter, I felt like the linebackers in general had a better game. They had some really bad moments in that Duke game. Thought the coverage was really good. I think they only passed for 60 yards in total. The coverage was pretty good. They were able to, get pressure. I think they only had 2 sacks, I believe. XP had one, and TJ Parker had the other.
Yes.
But they were able to get a lot of pressure, and it was was a pretty stifling performance. What you would expect. I mean, that offense, that Charleston Southern offense wasn't exactly, lighting it up, the
Right.
week before. So, but they
Yeah,
did what they were supposed to. I thought they played well. You saw guys, you saw guys flash. You were able to rotate in a lot of different players. Getting to see Khalil Barnes start at nickel was nice. Holding Andrew Makuba. And thought the corners played, they played pretty well. Tackling was solid. I mean, I didn't have too many complaints defensively. They really only had one drive. They really only had one drive where they gave up yards, and that ended in a field goal. But that team deserved to only have 3 points given up on the scoreboard. But of course, the offense decided to make 2 costly errors that led to 14 points.
Absolutely.
But no, I think the defense, played pretty well, and it was nice to see some of the freshmen get in and make some plays. And obviously, TJ Parker is a guy. He's ready to start. I think, if we're being honest.
Yeah. No, he definitely is.
And to Justin Maskell's credit, he had a pretty good game on Saturday. He played pretty well. He made some tackles. I didn't see him out of position or missing tackles. He had 2 really nice tackles for loss, like back to back in one play. So that was good to see. But it's clear that when TJ Parker is on the field, with him and XT, that is a nightmare, especially on passing downs. TJ Parker is already one of the best pass rushers on the team. It's pretty clear, and
and
the ceiling is pretty high for him.
He led the team in snaps on defensive end. And then he graded out the highest at an 84 overall. Justin Maskell, to your point, graded out the second highest at 75. So he was out there doing his thing as well. He played pretty well. Xavier Thomas graded out at a 75. So all those guys did pretty well. It was a good bounce back game for Jeremiah Trotter. I think he graded out at an 87. Which was a huge bounce back from his not so stellar opening performance against Duke. So it was really good to see the defense kind of put it all together and really dominate a team that they should have dominated. And you can say, they should have dominated them, but at the end of the day, when you hold an offense, to that little bit of passing yards and rushing yards and just overall total offense, it's a good day no matter who you're playing. So good day for the defense. Offense a little rocky coming out, but it was good to see them overcome adversity and then put it together in the second half. So, good things, I think, to build on for the Tigers. Good things to build on, going forward. It's not going to be perfect. I think we're obviously going to have growing pains. Obviously, we have some young guys playing, including our quarterback, really his first full starting season. We're watching it unfold before our eyes. He's a immensely talented player, and I think he's gonna slowly put it all together. You're gonna see fewer and fewer of those mistakes, and as long as he keeps progressing, the sky's really the limit with this offense. They just got to keep building upon the success that they had in those 2 quarters. So transitioning to FAU. Talking about FAU's defense, right? They had a ton of defense personnel return for this season, right? They got almost all of their production back on defense. They're really big along the lines of scrimmage. I know Dabo was talking about it, them being 300 plus along the line. So I think, really, our lines of scrimmage might be a little more tested in this game, obviously, than they were last game. Pass blocking has been somewhat of an issue for the Tigers. We've had some really bad breakdowns in pass protections. We've been fairly good at run blocking for the most part, but pass protection is where you've seen the most holes or the most mistakes with this offensive line. How do you think they go forward with this group of guys? Do you think they switch up some roles? What do you think they do to kind of get that pass protection a little more shored up in this game?
Well, it's clear through 2 games that they're still really retooling and kind of seeing what works. I mean, it doesn't seem like this lineup as it currently is constructed is completely set. And that's kind of what they told us before the season. So, I mean, that's not a surprise. But I really think that, people's spots are open. I think at the two tackles positions, especially, I think there could be some shakeup. I think between Tristan Lay, Colin Sadler, and Blake Miller, I think there could be some experimentation there, because it's I think that Tristan Lay has had some really nice moments. He's had some moments where he's hasn't looked so great, and he looks like an inexperienced, left tackle. But I think really what's been most disappointing, I don't think Blake Miller has played particularly well at right tackle either. So I think, especially on passing downs, I think he's been fine run blocking, but passing downs and pass protection, it still seems like the feet are still a little slow, which was kind of a problem for him at times last year. So I think there is some room for shakeup. Colin Sadler currently is the highest grade. Was the highest. Well, not currently, but last week he was the highest graded true freshman. Just true freshman offensive lineman. He was the highest graded true freshman of the entire weekend.
He graded out at an 89.3.
Yep.
So, really good. That was his overall score, and he had 83.2 on passing downs, and then 87.8 on rushing downs. So Colin Sadler really came out and had a really good game. I think he had 32 snaps in the contest. So in his limited amount of snaps, he played really well. You mentioned how well he graded out. I think Will Putnam graded out the highest as a starter along the offensive line, but the two top offensive linemen grading out were two backups, and that was Colin Sadler and Mitchell Mays. Those were the two highest graded offensive linemen last week. So, to your point, there is probably some room for shakeup. I don't, who knows? I think we really have to get it figured out very soon. This is kind of the last week where, you're playing a team of lesser talent. That you can kind of experiment with stuff like that, but we really have to shore up that pass blocking. We really do. That's been a problem, and that's part of the reason that Cade looks, I think, uncomfortable in the pocket at times, and he tends to get those happy feet, and tends to rush things and force things, and that's when mistakes happen. So I think shoring up that offensive line, getting that pass blocking a little bit better, those concepts down, working as a team, communicating when there's blitzes coming off the edge, because that's what Charleston Southern did really well last week, is they really blitzed off the edge a lot, and they caught us sleeping quite a few times, and Cade was under duress quite a few times. So that pass blocking really is a point of emphasis, I think, this week. Want to see that get cleaned up, and with their size on the lines of scrimmage, it might be kind of a test for both lines of scrimmage, defense and offensive line. And I really hope the offensive line can put together a really good game and gain some confidence heading into that FSU game next week.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's when you talk about that FSU game. I mean, if you're having issues at tackle, that does not.
It's not gonna be good.
That's not a good recipe with the team you're facing. I mean, Florida State have the best edge rushing duo in the ACC, and one of the best in the country with Jared Verse and Pat Payton. So if you can't afford to be bad at tackle against them, or your quarterback's going to be under pressure for pretty much the entire night. So that's got to be better. But yeah, I think this FAU team is certainly a work in progress. Obviously, Tom Herman is in his first season, and they're kind of under kind of a rebuild, kind of a retooling. They have, some experience back on defense, but this should be a defense you should be able to move the ball on. Ohio had 300 plus yards of offense on them, and they were moving the ball pretty consistently. They only scored 17, but this should be a defense that you should be able to move the ball on pretty easily and score points. So if they do have another like kind of like the first half of Charleston Southern, that's not going to be great.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this offense really needs to come out. They need to have a clean 4 quarters of football. They need to really correct those mishaps, the bad snaps, the bad mesh point with the handoffs, the poor decision making on throws. All that stuff needs to be cleaned up this week. This needs to be 4 good quarters of football for the Tigers because they can really bully this defense. Yeah, they got some size along the defensive line and stuff like that, but we should not have any problem moving the ball against this team, running against this team. They got this team's got some speed, but they got small corners, right? Their corners are not very big at all, which should be good news for guys like Bo Collins and Adam Randall and guys like that. So look for those guys to kind of have a good game and really use this as a launching point for heading into next week because. At the end of the day, no disrespect to FAU, but this is the last dress rehearsal, right? This is the last team that you're going to play that is really, 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 far less talented than you, right? So this is where you really got to get all the kinks out. You got to put a clean game together and really, you saw those last 2 quarters versus Charleston Southern. Now let's put 4 solid quarters together of mistake-free football, at least the catastrophic mistakes, right? No pick sixes, no fumbles deep in your own territory, no fumbles in the red zone, big mistakes like that. If we can avoid those and have a good, clean 4 quarters, I think we can build some more confidence along this offensive side of the ball and really be in a good spot heading into next week, which is what we're looking for. At this point, it's really just it's cleaning up the mistakes. We saw what the offense could be when they operate and they don't shoot themselves in the foot. So we'll see if they can do that this week against the Owls.
Yeah, and that really is what it comes down to because Clemson is averaging 550 yards or something like that per game. I believe that's 7th in the country.
Yeah, 550 yards a game. Yeah, absolutely.
All the offensive statistics for Clemson right now are like tops in the country, like top 10, top 15. Other than the turnover margin, you're not doing very well in.
Right.
So I think that has to be different. That has to change. But we can only like rehash the same points over and over about the offense. I think we all know this offense is. I don't think this offense is bad. It really is.
Oh, it really
has the potential to be pretty good. It's about Cade, being settled in for 4 quarters and playing a complete game, and taking care of the football and just looking like you aren't so disjointed at times. So. That's really all it comes down to. And if we see a full 4 quarters of consistent offense, I think that's progress because based off the last 2 weeks, it doesn't matter who we're playing. We can. This team has it in them to shoot itself in the foot. So if they play a clean 4 games of football, they've done a good job of limiting penalties through 2 games. So that's been good.
Yeah.
But taking care of the football and all that'll go a long way.
Yeah, for sure. And to your point, the statistics say it all for this offense. 550 yards a game, 307 yards passing, 443 yards rushing. Defense has only given up 223 yards a game. So, excuse me, statistically speaking, the complementary football's there. So clean that stuff up. I think we'll be okay. Let's talk about the FAU offense a little bit. They got Casey Thompson at quarterback, former Texas quarterback, transferred
Texas and Nebraska.
To Texas and Nebraska. Yep, now transferred to FAU. So seeing if he can get some things going. I think he's got 5 touchdowns on the season, 3 interceptions. They got some speed on the outside. You heard Dabo in his interview talk about that number 1. I think he's like 5'11", but he's a burner. He's a dude that can
Wilder. Yeah, their slot guy.
Yeah,
or Wester. Sorry. Wilder, they're
Wester. Yeah, Wester.
Yeah, I don't know why I was thinking Wilder.
He's got
Wester. Yeah.
He's got about 150, I think, plus yards receiving, 18 receptions this year. So, he's playing pretty well. Um, they got some speed on the outside, so it'll be a bigger test for our secondary to see how they can cover and see how they can keep putting together good games. But I feel really good about our defense in this game. They should dominate FAU. FAU should not be able to put up a ton of yards on this defense. I think we can get a pass rush going. Our corners seem to be playing pretty well to this point this season. For the most part, outside of a handful of little areas. But I really think our defense will have another dominant performance on Saturday against the Owls.
I think this is where I'm a little bit more skeptical, because I think if there's any part of this team, this FAU team that kind of worries me a little bit, is I do think it is the offense, because one, Casey Thompson is, the statistics don't really wow you at this point in the season, but
no,
that he can play football. He's played a lot of football, and he's mobile. He's tough to bring down. And as this team saw with Riley Leonard, they have it in them. This defense has it in them to not handle that very well. So I think not letting, I think covering is a big deal, because they do have speed on the perimeter in the skill positions. The running back they have is pretty good too. Yeah, but I think Casey Thompson and his legs, I do think is kind of daunting. So I think this defense needs to be. I think they need to clean up some of the mistakes they made against Duke, because I think it's going to present a similar challenge. Because if they do make those mistakes, I don't expect them FAU to put up like a bunch of points, but I do think you could have some moments where the defense looks a little silly, and I just, that's not great to put on film right before you're about to face Mike Norvell and that Florida State offense. So another mobile quarterback. So taking care of business there, and being sure of where Casey Thompson is at all times. He really is a capable quarterback. He both the passing and run game. So I do think that's something to keep in mind, and not letting the speed on the perimeter for FAU get loose, because you could be in for a game with the struggle bus. If that's the case.
You make some good points, but I look for our defensive line to get a pass rush against Casey Thompson and try to kind of get him out of his rhythm. But to your point, you saw what Riley Leonard was able to do when the pass protection broke down for Duke about a million times in that game, week one, and somehow he would slip out, or he would find a lane, and he would rush, for 10, 8. He would just get these chunk plays when the pass protection broke down and there were no open receivers down the field. So our guys really do. But, I think, maybe they've learned some lessons from what Riley Leonard was able to do, getting outside of their rushing lanes, not doing some sloppy tackling. Hopefully they shore that up in this game. And if they do, really discipline on their rushes, stay in their lanes. When they get their hands on them, do sure tackling, right? Take them to the ground. I think they could have another dominant day, but his legs definitely do, pose a threat. And like you said, we mentioned the speed that they have on the outside. So the DBs are going to have to bring their A game and really shut these guys down. And hopefully we can see some complimentary football, right? The offense putting up points, putting up yards, putting up drives, and letting the defense get breaks and really, playing that good complimentary football. We really just need to see 4 clean quarters from both sides of the ball, right? No big busted coverage, no big busted plays. Keep everything in front of you. Shore up your tackling, especially in space. These guys are fast, so they get the ball in open space. They can make things happen. And that was a problem for Clemson in week 1. So definitely something that I look for them to clean up and get another rep at before we transition into next week. So I think it'll be a good test with all that speed and that mobile quarterback back there. So be a good test for the defense, but I think they're up for the challenge. These guys know what's at stake. They know, what happened in week one and the things that went wrong. And I think they have been working tirelessly ever since to correct those issues that they allowed to happen.
Yeah. And hopefully if things go well, I mean, you're in a similar situation in the second half like you were last week, where you were able to play a lot of guys. I think Clemson played 117 different players
Wow.
last week, or on Saturday. So that was really good to see. I think that's the most they've played since I can't remember the stat. I think that's the most they've played since the UNC Charlotte game back in 2019.
I believe it. It.
Yeah, so Clemson was able to get in a lot of different guys, and that's something that we really haven't seen in a long time is Clemson having that kind of lead where they could sub in that many different players and get guys reps, and you got to see some guys shine that you otherwise wouldn't. I mean, we talked about it during the post-game show, seeing guys like Jay Haynes, Keith Adams Jr., Dominique Thomas get in the game at running back. You got to see, all of your quarterbacks play. That was really good to see. You got to see, obviously, Chris Vizina didn't really get to throw a pass, so that kind of sucked. But you got to see Hunter Helms and Paul Tyson come in and lead drives. And then Chris Vizina was about to score, even though he was handing the ball off.
Mm-hmm.
You got to see a lot of different receivers and catch passes. Troy Stellato, we talked about him.
Your boy Hamp Green. Your boy Hamp Green with the Sports Center top 10.
Yeah, Hamp Odell Green. Yeah. I still can't believe that. That might have been that's the greatest Clemson receiver catch I've seen in about like two or 3 years, which is hard to believe.
You got to go back to like Justin Ross and T. Higgins to see catches like that, man.
Or maybe that I think the only catch I can remember, since like EJ Williams had that one-handed catch in the ACC championship game back in 2020. I think that's the last time I've seen a receiver really go up and get one like that.
Yeah.
So that was really nice to see, and it came from one of the least expected guys on the team. Just seeing the receiver go up and just grab one and have that kind of mentality was nice. So, you got to see a lot of different guys on the offensive line got to play. So hopefully you're in that situation again and you're building depth and kind of getting guys reps, because that's something Clemson was able to benefit from in the past, that because of the offensive woes the last couple seasons, they haven't really been able to take advantage of. So
yeah, I mean, we played 15 different offensive linemen in that game. So I mean, that's
pretty much the whole offensive line.
Yeah, I think that's everybody.
Offensive line.
Yeah, I think that's everybody that we have on the roster got in the game and at least got a couple snaps. So, and to your point, we have not been in a position in a very long time to do stuff like that. Even when we're playing lesser talent the past couple of years, we've never really been in the position to kind of empty the benches like we did on Saturday. So a lot of good things came out of Saturday, a lot of good things to, that we can, draw some hope from and maybe some expectation that they might get it turned around. But they're just going to have to continue to grind this one out. They have no room for error anymore. If they want to, continue to have the season that they want, go to the ACC championship and things like that, they're really behind the 8 ball. That first game was an ACC game, so they really got to keep grinding this out to get where they want to go. And I think they all know that. You can sense that, when they're given interviews. They have a complete understanding of where they are at as a team right now and what they need to do. So, all that stuff is encouraging. And I just look for them to continue to progress, right? It's a long season. It's a short season, but it's a long season, if that makes sense. We got a long way to go here. A lot of stuff to still improve. But it's moving in the right direction. So that's all you can ask for. You're supposed to progress from week to week. And we definitely got better from week 1 to week 2. Now let's see if we can get better from week 2 to week 3.
Yep. All right. You ready to give score prediction? Well, what we didn't do last week was we didn't give our picks against the spread. So you want to do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I
Let's
think the line is Clemson minus 24.5.
minus 24. Yep.
Okay, I guess it's 24 now.
24 and a half. Yep. It's
Oh,
24
okay, sweet.
Yep. Clemson minus 24 and a half is the spread on this game. What's your feel on this spread? What do you think? You guys in the comment section, get your picks in on the spread. You taking Clemson minus 24, or are you guys taking the road team from down in Florida, the Owls, with a plus 24? WB2DX says Clemson by 30.
I can see it. Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to take Clemson here. I think I'm kind of banking on them riding that momentum from the second half. I do think there could be some moments where it's a little bit sketchy. You know, I think honestly, I'm more concerned about the defense having kind of a lackluster kind of performance than I am the offense for some reason. I really don't know why, but I just kind of have a funny feeling. So maybe it could be a little bit closer than we expect as far as the spread is concerned. But I'm going to take Clemson 40. Well, let me not give the score prediction until we actually do it. But I'm going to take Clemson minus the 24.5. But I could see this being like a 25, 27-point win.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's a little close for comfort.
Yeah, I could see that happening. Being a 21, 20, 24-point win. But I'm going to go ahead and take Clemson with the over. I think they finally saw some success on the offensive side of the ball. I think they finally got some momentum and some confidence along that side of the ball. And I think they parlay that into another very successful game for the offense. Now, you mentioned some of the, question marks heading into this game for the defense with some of the speed that FAU has and the quarterback and his mobility. But I'm still going to take the Tigers minus 24. I think they get it done this week in another blowout fashion versus a less talented team.
And this game kind of has backdoor cover potential because if Clemson does have the type of game that we hope, and they get some of the backups and third string, and you get really deep into the bench. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if FAU put some drives together, and it's like say it's like a 42-17 type game, and
right.
or 40 or let's say like a 42-13 type game, and they score a late touchdown, make it 42-20, and then they cover. Something like that. I could totally see something like that.
Yeah, that could happen. Which was one of the good things to see from last week is that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Right when we emptied the benches, the defense still held. I mean, they weren't allowing anything, even with those second and third string guys in there. So, but yeah, it could be a bit more of a challenge this week. Definitely a more talented team coming up to the Valley. But again, I'm going to take Clemson minus the 24.
All right,
let's move on to the score prediction. You guys get your score predictions in the chat. What do you think it's going to be? I'm going to go with 45-14. So I'll go with a 31-point win for the Tigers.
You stole my exact score prediction. So
did you?
Yeah. I guess I'm gonna go. I'm gonna just drop it down by 3 because I do think they get 2 touchdowns for FAU. Sounds about right. I think.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go 42-14. So I'm a fade the offense by a field goal just so we have a different score prediction. But I kind of am more feeling the 45-14 type range. Yeah. But I'll go with 42-14. 28-point win. They cover the spread and pretty solid victory. Pretty you do what you're supposed to do, and that should be around what the result is.
Yeah, that's all the Tigers need to do heading into this game. They need to do what they're supposed to do, and they're supposed to blow FAU out. So that's what needs to happen. So yeah, I'm going 45-14. You're going 42-14. So pretty close there with our score predictions. Let's see what the chat's talking about. What's y'all's score prediction? Michael Foster says 52-17. Jackson Johnson says 38-10. Ted Jackson says
Totally see that.
45-17. I could see that. That's
Yeah,
a
that sounds.
plausible score.
WB2DX thinks that the running game has a big day. Shipley 225 rushes,
Three
three
touchdowns,
touchdowns, Maffa
three
100.
tutties.
Good
Hey,
Lord,
yo,
I don't know if I should be concerned if that's the stat line, because if Shipley and Maffa are getting enough touches where they have that kind of stat line, Clemson could be in a game.
that's true. They could be in a game, or they just broke some big rushes.
Yeah, hopefully
They-
it's like hopefully they did it on like 10 carries each or
yeah,
something like
yeah.
that.
It's like 9 or 10 carries for 225, which will be a crazy stat line.
That would
But
be crazy. That's
honestly,
a
like
20-yard rush. But
I would love to see a stat line like that out of those two. I would be down for that. 5 touchdowns combined with our top 2 running backs. Yeah, and 375 yards of rushes. Yeah, I'll take that any day of the week. Let's hope that comes true. I like that prediction. Probably won't, but
not me, 52-3. John Sarian, 42-15. Okay, yeah. We seem to all be in agreement. I think
yeah, we're all around the same score.
Monty gets in. He says 48-6. I think that'd be a really good. Only allowed 6 points throughout the game.
Holding them to 2 field goals. I like it.
Drew is thinking this is a little more of a dogfight. 35-18.
There you go.
Well, we've seen it from this team. That wouldn't surprise. Really, no. I'd be surprised by like a close victory, but I definitely wouldn't be surprised by a score like that.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't be feeling very good going into next week. That's for sure.
Judging by how this team has operated to this point this season, I would not be surprised if we're in the second quarter and it's still a close game. Because we've just seen it.
We've seen both ends of the spectrum for this team. We've seen where this team can't get out of its own way, and we've seen look like an efficient, unstoppable machine. So I don't.
Yeah, we'll see what we get on Saturday. We'll see what we get. All right, so I think everybody's got their score predictions in there. If you guys want to get your questions in, into the live chat, if you guys got any questions for us, any topics that you want us to cover before we get out of here tonight, we'll give you guys a couple minutes to get your comments in. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Hit that like button for us. Subscribe if you are not already subscribed. We appreciate every single one of you that comes in here and hangs out with us while we break down Clemson football. But I can't wait for 8 o'clock on Saturday, man. Got to wait till the end of the day, but it'll be worth it. Hopefully Clemson puts together 4 great quarters of football and complimentary football at that.
And man, the thing that sucks about Saturday is there isn't a great slate of games this week. This weekend. I mean, I love. Listen, it's college football, so I'm going to watch as many games as possible. But this week is kind of on the leaner end as far as big time matchups. You do have Florida and Tennessee playing, and I think that's probably the biggest matchup. Watching South Carolina get beat down by Georgia might could be fun, but other than that, there aren't a whole lot of marquee matchups. So not only are you waiting a long time for 8 o'clock, there's not a whole lot of space that's filled with great matchups. But hey, I'm just grateful college football is back, and these are the kinds of you only guaranteed 12, and just enjoy every single weekend while you can.
Absolutely, like I said at the top of the show, man, we're already in week 3. It's absolutely insane. Quarter of the season almost gone already, so absolutely crazy. Let's see. So let's get to some of these questions. John Sarian says, "Who will be the leading receiver Saturday?"
That's a good question. I think I'm going to go Bo Collins again.
I was going to go Bo Collins as well.
Yeah, I think they're making a concerted effort to get him the ball. Because he does have, the playmaking ability that it just the consistency has to be there, but he does have the playmaking ability. Yeah. And Antonio Williams, just the way they use him, he doesn't get those big chunk plays that Bo Collins is getting. It seems like they want Bo to get downfield a little bit more, and Antonio is used in the shorter intermediate part of the game. And I think Bo I think he has another solid game. Maybe not 140, maybe not 140 receiving yards. Maybe closer to like 90, or something like that. Because I just, the big plays, I got to see more before I say he does it again.
I think he's slowly becoming wide receiver one for this team.
I think
that's really what I wanted to see heading into this season. Really, Bo kind of take that next step, switch into that next gear, and really become the leader for this wide receiver room. That's what we need Bo Collins to do. He looks like he's slowly stepping into that role. I think he's obviously the number one target, just judging by how they target him and how the offense is running to this point. I would definitely go Bo Collins to be the leading receiver. Antonio Williams will probably be pretty close behind him, though.
I agree.
WB2DX says at Jordan Bowman, Heisman winner for 2023.
Ooh. I mean, it's early.
It's really early.
It's really early, but I mean, obviously a couple names have stood out. I mean, Caleb Williams is obviously the incumbent, Heisman winner, and he's playing like it again. Shedeur Sanders has been at Colorado, has been phenomenal. I don't know if Colorado. I'm still not sure what to think about Colorado and whether they're going to be, good enough for Shedeur to really be in the conversation by season's end. But so far, he's putting up incredible numbers. I think those two really jump out to me. Quinshon Judkins at Ole Miss is having a really nice year, running back. I don't know. It's kind of difficult. So Quinn Ewers, I think after that game against Alabama, I do think he's put himself in that discussion. I'm really thinking quarterbacks because it's
a quarterback really award. We all know that it's a quarterback award.
But yeah, I think I guess if I had to pick, I'm going to go Ewers because I think Quinn Ewers is. I think the team around him is in the best shape it's been.
I could see that. The
system is really good. I mean, and that big one. I mean, winning the Heisman is about marquee moments and winning marquee games, and that win over Alabama was arguably the best of the year. So I think that has to be. I think that puts him in the discussion. So I think I'm going to go Quinn Ewers for now.
Quinn Ewers. There we go. All right. David Wood says, what channel? Are you asking what channel the game's going to be on? It's going to be on ACC Network.
ACC Network, yeah.
Yeah, ACC Network for the Clemson game at 8 o'clock.
Yep.
I don't know if that's what you're asking, but I'm just assuming. John Sarin says it.
Backyard is this week.
Huh? What's that?
Yeah, he was. I was. Yeah, the backyard brawl is this week.
Yeah, the backyard brawl. Pitt versus West Virginia. Who you got? I'm rocking with Pitt. I'm rocking with Pitt.
I'm a lean Pitt because the ACC has done pretty good in these marquee these marquee non-con matchups so far. But they did not look good last week. Pitt did not look good.
No.
Lost to.
I'm going to jump out on a leap of faith and say they get some things corrected and come out and pull out probably a close game with West Virginia. It's probably going to be, a pretty hard fought close game.
Yeah, I totally could see. I mean, Pitt just has to. I think the offense is still the defense is still a work in progress, which is weird to say for Pitt, but you got to remember they lost a ton from last year's defense, and they're still kind of retooling. I think they're going to get better. They've always been really good, and they always consistently get better over the course of the year. But I think this year they had to, it's going to take some settling in for them. But really, it's the offense. I feel Dracovic did not play well last week. The receivers let him down at times, and that was that was disappointing. So I think they need to, find some consistency in that passing game because it's not very good so far.
Yeah. All right. Excuse me. Sorry. Jackson Johnson says, Jordan and Tiger Paw, don't worry about your predictions being the same. You know how the saying goes, great minds think alike. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Philip, I hope the Riley show shows up for 4 quarters, as do all of us. We all hope the Riley show shows up for 4 quarters. Uh-oh. Like Mike says, found out that Clemson has lost the turnover margin 8 out of the last 9 games. Any thoughts on that? I did not know that stat.
I didn't either, but
that's
surprise me.
That's not winning football. That's not how you're successful in big time college football. That's how you get beat, and that's how you get beat by teams that you shouldn't lose to. And we can point out several games that's happened in the not so distant past. So yeah, it's stuff you got to get cleaned up. There's really nothing else to say about it other than you just hope they can get it corrected and get it cleaned up. It's just unfortunate, and it seems to be happening at the worst times possible in the games. So you just got to hope that the coaching staff can get that stuff cleaned up. Nothing much else to say about it. Jackson Johnson says, this is the go-to Clemson show for me. Well, thank you. We really do appreciate it. We appreciate your contribution to the show as well and getting into the chat section and coming to hang out with us. Thank you so much for the kind words. Ted Jackson gets in and says, do you think the offensive woes thus far have been more on Cade or the receivers or both? They seem to play much better in the second half, but still nothing downfield.
Yeah, it's definitely both. We've seen the warts on both sides. Whether it's Cade just making poor reads, not really seeing the field very well, just showing that inexperience, and then the receivers not consistently getting separation. Some drops, and especially in the Duke game, were pretty brutal. Not really fighting for the ball at times. It's both for sure. We've seen both sides be at fault for certain outcomes of certain plays. So it's really just a combination of Cade being inexperienced and just getting in his own head, and I won't say getting in his own head, but just making poor decisions, and then the receivers are not consistently helping him out when he does make a good play. So
yeah,
that's going to come with more reps. I think but
he'll get it cleaned up. The
offense itself, I think schematically, I think you're seeing what they're trying to be, and I like what I've seen, especially in that second half of the Charleston Southern game. Obviously, the results were really nice, but just what they were doing throughout the game, I thought was really, really good, and you're starting to see the scheme kind of take hold a little bit. So I think this team only goes up offensively from here, and I don't think they can get much worse than what we saw against Duke. But it's going to take more reps. It's going to take more reps, and a time's going to come again this season where they don't look very good. I'm pretty confident on that. It could very well be next week. But I think the scheme itself is good, and it's just going to take time. And I think you're limited at certain positions. I think you're limited at receiver. So I mean that's going to put a cap on how explosive they look. But I think this offense can still be pretty good with guys being more comfortable in their roles. Both at receiver and quarterback, and also the offensive line. So,
yeah, absolutely. And look, when the quarterback makes a mistake, everybody knows it, right? When receivers make mistakes, not everybody knows it all the time. unless, the camera's on him, the ball gets thrown to him, right? So, it's just more magnified when you're a quarterback. So definitely both. David Wood says, I have Colorado minus 23.5 in 2 parlays. So we got a parlay man out here. Good luck, man. Good luck. I hope you win. Will Barnes get playing time?
Yes, he's going to start.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he will get the start at nickel. Avion Terrell, I think you'll see more of him in this game. He said he was repping at nickel, trying to get more on the field. I asked Andrew McCuba to help him out. So I think you'll see him as well. But, yeah, Barnes will get the start again at nickel. And I think you haven't heard his name called. He hasn't made a ton of, you haven't seen him make a ton of plays, but haven't heard his name called, which means he's
doing his job.
He's doing the job, and you haven't seen the buck or anything like that, so that's good.
Yeah.
And
it's kind of like
honestly, I think you will see him make. I feel like you will see him make a play in this game. I just kind of have that feeling.
Kind of like when you don't hear a center's name, right? If you ever hear the center's name or the announcer's talking about him, probably not a good thing, right?
Yeah.
So we need that Renfro type receiver. Yeah.
I mean, a Renfro type receiver is nice, but I don't think that's what this offense is needing. I think it really is the downfield guy that you can really trust to go up and get it, get separation down the field, can run every route on the route tree, all of that, and consistently. Just a guy that the defense has to be aware of where he's at all times. That kind of thing, which to a degree Renfro was, but the explosiveness and how Clemson used him, it wasn't like he was getting a ton of downfield shots, but when he did, he was really good. Don't get me wrong, Renfro could go up and make some difficult catches, but that's not what he was primarily used for.
Yeah. Definitely need that consistent downfield threat. You just hit on this a little bit. Does Avion get the nickel package Saturday? A lot of chatter this week about him and Barnes.
Yeah, that kind of reiterates what I said. I think you'll see him some, but he's going to play. But I don't expect him to. He's not going to start, obviously. And he's still trying to. They're going to put him out there, let him get some reps, and just kind of see what he does. That's kind of how I feel.
Yeah. Michael Foster gets in and says Troy Stellato will have 5 to 7 catches.
I hope so. I think getting him confidence and getting him more involved, I think is good. I mean, he's a third-year guy, and we barely knew it. We weren't even sure he existed until Saturday. It didn't feel like he was a real person. So it's happy. I'm glad to know that.
Yeah. I started to question whether he was still on the roster. I knew he was, obviously, but just not seeing him. You heard so much about him coming out of high school, and all the promise and all the talent in the world, and he just went through a rough patch. He came to Clemson hurt, and then he tore his ACL, and then one thing after another. I mean, I don't know if you saw his interview this week that he did right after the game, but he talked about some of the adversity that he's had at Clemson. And that he's never really had much adversity when it comes to football in his life. So it was kind of, a big adjustment for him in a tough time. And he felt like, a lot of people lost confidence in him, and, he's kind of turned that into motivation. And, he talked about how emotional this past Saturday was for him running down the field and actually getting on the field and contributing. And you just hear the guy talking, you can tell he's just got that. He's got that fire. He's got that dog. He wants to get on the field, and he's going to fight when he gets on the field. When he gets the ball in his hands, he's going to fight for every yard he can get. You could just tell, by the way he's just kind of talking about it. So I would not be surprised to see him to continue to have success. I hope he stays healthy because he looked really good on Saturday. And he can be a key contributor for this team. Dabo is talked about Troy Stellato a lot in the past. And eventually he was like, we're really, he's just been unavailable. So until he's available, we're just going to kind of, leave it at that. But, the talent's there. He's got it. So hopefully he can continue. David Wood says, how many catches for Tyler Brown?
Ooh. I'm going to say I'd like to see him get more involved in the downfield passing game because I do think he offers some. I think he's a very good route runner, and he has the speed. It seems like he gets more separation than some of the guys that. But I'm going to say I'm feeling 3 or 4. I think he gets 3 or 4.
Yeah, I could see that.
I'd
say
if he gets a big one, maybe like 4 for. It'd be great if it was like 4 for 78 or something like that. Like 20, 30-yard gain or something. Maybe in a long touchdown. That'd be nice. But I'm gonna say 3 or 4 catches. That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. Will Florida State get tripped up by Boston College this Saturday? I don't think so. Although that would be funny, and I would laugh at them, just like they laughed at us when we lost to Duke. I don't think that's going to happen. Florida State is, in my opinion, far too talented. Boston College is not a very good team. They have not looked good.
They are bad. They're very bad.
They might be worse than Virginia. I don't know. Maybe those two can battle it out for the
that's a good discussion.
Worst 2 teams in the ACC. But no, I don't think they're – I mean, you can never say there's not a chance in college football or, in football in general, but I really think there's slim to no chance of this happening.
Yeah. No, I don't expect it. I mean, there have been Florida State fans, Florida State teams in the past that have gone up there and had a little bit of a struggle, as Clemson has on occasion. But no, I don't think this team is going to look ahead, and they seem to be in a little bit of a different spot. And I just don't think this Boston College team has really much upside for them to see an upset. Defensively, they're not playing very well. They don't have much going for them offensively either.
JR, Ewers looked good. Yes, he did. He looked very good.
Yeah.
He looked very good.
Especially in that fourth quarter. He really iced that game.
Yeah, he did. I mean, that was big time. That was big time. Yeah. He looked great. So definitely put himself in the Heisman talk. Philip gets in and says, do you think if the Tigers get throttled by FSU, considering the Seminoles have built a lot of their team out of the transfer portal, it will change Dabo's mind on the transfer portal? Short answer, no.
Yeah, I'll say because it's kind of the question is kind of loaded because I don't think Dabo is necessarily he's effectively against the transfer portal as far as him using it, but he does not. He said that he will use the portal when he feels there's a need, and we've talked about it. If so many guys didn't come back, they probably there was a chance they would have used the transfer portal. So I don't know if it's going to change his mind too much per se, because I don't think his mind was ever completely against the portal. I don't think he's completely closed off to the portal. It really is just. I wish he would be more open, and I still stand on that. I wish he would just bite the bullet and say this is what college football is now, and I have to be looking at the portal every single year, every single offseason, and not I'm not saying you have to take guys every single offseason, but you need to be constantly reevaluating your roster. And if there's a place where there's there's question marks, you need to jump in that portal and go get somebody.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it's going to change his mind too much on the portal, and it really just depends on how that game looks. But you said throttled, so a blowout loss at home, that wouldn't look great. And
it's not going to look good.
I'm kind of the opinion that Dabo does go to the portal anyway this offseason because of the guys that you lose. I do think there's a chance. But at the end of the day, you got to see it first, because we've only ever seen him get 2 backup quarterbacks out of the portal. So, but I think there's a chance that he goes into the portal this offseason anyway. So, but it definitely will. I think it definitely will put a more put more emphasis on that aspect because it's already going to be a big storyline heading into that game. So
it'll be a massive storyline heading into the game. It'll be a massive storyline heading out of the game if Clemson does, get throttled, as Philip says, in the game. Will it change Dabo's mind on the transfer portal? Depends on what really you mean by that. In my opinion, no, it's not going to change his mind. I think he is willing to use the transfer portal if he needs to, but I don't think it's his first option. And I don't really see that changing. Maybe I'm wrong. I think, Clemson should use it more than they do, obviously. But at the end of the day, no, I don't think it's going to change his mind very much. But Clemson has gone after portal guys in the past. Big time offensive lineman that went to Michigan. I think they've evaluated other guys that have committed to other programs. It's not like Clemson has never offered a portal guy or never went after one. It's just they haven't landed that big time name in the transfer portal. And for whatever reason, I don't know. I'm not behind the scenes. I don't know the discussions that go on when somebody enters the transfer portal and when they talk to different teams. I honestly don't know. I would imagine just knowing how Dabo Swinney is and how he talks, if guys are coming in and looking to be guaranteed a starting position out of the transfer portal, he's probably not going to give you that confirmation. So maybe, that's just, just judging by how Dabo talks about players and stuff like that, that's kind of not how he operates. So maybe that's one of the shortcomings of the transfer portal. But, I think, Clemson will use it here and there. They're by no means going to build a roster out of the transfer portal, unless recruiting just falls off a cliff and you just have to go to the transfer portal to build, quality, to get quality pieces. But, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Going to be a huge storyline. All the national media will be talking about Dabo and the transfer portal and NIL and yada, 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 and the whole nine. It'll be a huge thing. You'll be sick of hearing about it here in, the next, another week.
Yeah. And, one thing that I do think Dabo, I think one policy is, as far as the portal is concerned, that I wish he would kind of reevaluate is, taking guys that you recruited out of high school, that you went after, and, when they were in high school. Like, I know for a fact that Xavier Henderson, he was a transfer wide receiver out of Florida, had pretty decent, solid production at Florida. Ended up at Cincinnati. I know the first school he reached out to was Clemson. That's where he wanted to go, and they told him no. Dabo has that policy where we want you. We want guys that want Clemson from the jump and all of that, and that's
I don't get behind that, man.
Yeah, I think that's something especially he really needs to reevaluate, because when you're doing yourself a disservice, because you take the effort and time to recruit kids that don't end up at your school, and there's always a chance that you could get them back in the portal if they enter, and as long as the circumstances are fine, they're not transferring for bad reasons, but because of the way Clemson recruits, you build relationships with a lot of talented players, and if one or two of them end up in the portal for whatever reason and they want to come,
why wouldn't you?
That
clearly you scouted them, and they had a high enough character, or they fit whatever culture or whatnot the first go around. So why wouldn't they the second go around? It seems like a no-brainer to me. It's a really mind-boggling policy, if you ask me. It doesn't make any sense, and I think he really definitely for sure needs to reevaluate that one, because that just does not make sense. It is what it is. It doesn't make sense at all. So we'll see.
And
the portal is what
I think
it is.
Xavier Henderson definitely could have been Yeah.
Could have helped the team.
He definitely could have. Xavier Henderson definitely could have been a productive guy. Yeah.
All right. Let's see. You got any other questions in here? Let's see. Don't you guys think the offense will be really conservative before FSU? I don't really think so. I mean, I think they're going to run
Conservative,
what they're
no.
going to run.
Yeah.
Maybe they, have some wrinkles and stuff that they're obviously not going to show or hold back or save for different moments in the season and stuff. But conservative, I wouldn't really say conservative.
I don't think this team can afford to play in the way that you're saying, like where they're hiding a bunch of parts of the playbook and stuff. No, I think it's not an overly large playbook to begin with. I don't think Clemson is hiding a lot of the main offense. I don't, and if they are, then that's not great because you've already lost a game and could have used a spark against Duke. But no, I don't think this team is going to be conservative in the way that you're saying it. I think what we've seen is what the offense is going to look like, and they haven't shown everything. That no team shows everything, but I don't think that. I think the majority of what we've seen is what this offense is. And because of this team's inconsistency, they need to be running the full offense. They need to be getting comfortable doing what they're going to be doing the rest of the season. So getting those reps is valuable.
Yeah, for sure. We need all the confidence and the reps that we can get. WB2DX gets in, says, for me, it's a tie between this show and the Morgan Thomas show. Absolutely. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. That is good company for us to be in. Morgan Thomas has a great show over on his channel. So I'll take it. That's good company.
Great guy. All right. Anything else?
I'm looking. Let's do this real quick. Like Mike says, off topic, but y'all, Colorado State head coach called out Dion. Dion said he's taking it personal now. Should be fun to see a butt whooping. What did he say? I didn't see. What did he say?
Yeah, he basically said, when you're talking to grown-ups, you take your hat and your glasses off, and that's what my mama taught me, or something like that. He said something to that effect.
What does that mean?
About Dion's, Dion's personality and kind of his demeanor and kind of how he carries himself. And I guess I don't know, he took a shot. So there's that's going to be fun. Colorado State is very, very bad. So
that's going to be they're gonna put up 87 points against Colorado State.
And at this point, I've learned to take Dion serious when he says something. If he says he took it personally, I think he took it personally. And so I do think that I don't remember who said they were taking Colorado minus 20. That might have been like Mike. Oh no, it was David. It was David Wood. Wood, yeah. Taking Colorado minus 23.5. I think that's a decent bet.
For sure. Yeah, I think they win by double that probably.
Oh my God. Yeah.
WB2DX, man, I'd love to see you guys have Morgan Thomas on the show.
Yeah, I think that's something that I can make happen in the future. I've gotten to know Morgan a good bit in the past year, so that would definitely be.
We'll
really
definitely try to make that happen for sure sometime in the future. I know he's busy with his show, and
he's a very busy guy. Yeah, with his show, and he's on the Roar.
Yeah, he does the radio. He's, I think he works a regular job as well. So, busy guy. David Wood, Colorado State pass defense is in the bottom 10. Yeah, well, yeah, gonna be a long day for them, especially with that trash talk. So, will Rook show out soon? I think he's done pretty well so far.
He's played well.
Yeah.
I think him and Tyler Davis have been, everything they've
been locking it down.
Yeah, I mean, in the interior, they've been pretty disruptive, and so it hasn't resulted into a ton of a ton of tackles for loss and sacks, but their presence is being felt. That's for sure. And I definitely think Root could play himself into first round draft pick conversation by the end of the year. He has that kind of he has those kind of traits and measurables, and he's getting a lot of love currently in draft circles.
Yep. He's going to get drafted pretty high, I think. Stellato needs to stay in top health so he can show out in Hard Rock this year. Absolutely. That'd be great. That'd be amazing to see. Hopefully we get to see that happen. Jermaine Woods with NIL, many of the game changers who enter the portal will not likely come to Clemson. Maybe. I don't know. That's a possibility. I do know Clemson's probably not interested in getting into bidding wars with people, but they do have 2 NIL collectives. They got an NIL facility. So Clemson is far from ignoring NIL like the national media likes to try to paint. That Clemson hasn't paid a player since NIL has been a thing is kind of how the national media likes to paint it. That couldn't be further from the truth. Clemson does a lot with NIL. They do a lot. But, let's see. We got anything else in here?
Let's see. Is Capehart injured? Yeah. No, he's not.
No, he's not injured.
Yeah, he's good. I mean, he played on Saturday, saw him a good bit.
He got let me see.
And he's had a lot more opportunity with Trey Williams being out and some other guys being a little banged up. But no, he's not hurt. He's played. He's played.
Yeah, I don't see a snap count on here. I was gonna look and see if I saw how many snaps he played on Saturday, but no, here he is. 16. He got 16 snaps on Saturday.
Yeah, he's played.
He played. He had the third most snaps out of any defensive tackle. So he's out there playing. He's doing well. Got more snaps than Peter Woods, actually.
Yeah, he did.
Let's see what we got. NIL. Oh yeah, we already saw this one. Jermaine. Yeah. And that's a big possibility. Jermaine's got a good point. Because I don't think Clemson does the bidding war type deal like I think some of these schools get into. So, that could be a reason that Clemson is limited in the transfer portal as well. Because, we talked about it earlier, how they've contacted certain people and they've ended up at other teams, like Michigan and Florida State and, places like that. So NIL probably definitely plays a big part in that. I don't know. I know Clemson's got 2, NIL collectives and all that stuff. But, again, what they're paying players or what they're willing to do, I don't know. Those numbers aren't really ever reported. So, who knows? Who knows? What else we got? Let's see. John Sarian says, I thought Henderson was told no because Dabo was already over count for scholarships.
That might be true. I can't even remember if that
is that.
I don't think that
over. Was that this offseason?
I think that was last offseason, though.
Yeah.
Which I don't remember what our scholarship count was looking like at that moment. But that could be true. But I do know he was – all I know is that he was told no. He wanted to come, and he was told no. And I think there is a chance there. I think Clemson gets contacted by a lot of guys. I don't think there's any doubt about it in the portal, just to seeing if there's an opening. And I'm pretty confident we've turned down some pretty talented players at times. And, they're not all they're not all good, and not all of them are good enough to play at Clemson. But
that's a ridiculous policy, though, to even for that to even be a thought that we recruited them and they chose another school, so now they can't come here. That's just crazy.
Yeah,
that's just crazy.
I do wish you would reevaluate that.
But let's maybe Clemson gets dabbles in the transfer portal a little more this offseason. We'll see what Dabo does after this year, and then I'm sure we'll be revisiting this conversation quite a bit in the offseason, especially with the transfer portal and NIL and all that stuff. Because that stuff's only going to start, only going to keep progressing and keep changing college football in different ways. And, Clemson's going to have to adjust and change with it. That's just kind of how it goes. It's the name of the game. You adjust or die. And according to Dabo, we're not going anywhere. So if that's true, we're going to have to adjust in certain ways, not fully, but as far as building an entire roster, but we'll have to adjust somewhat and fill holes and take players that are just better at times.
All right. Anything else before we? I
think that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for stopping by. Everybody in here. I see David Wood in here. I see Jermaine Woods in here. Thank you for stopping by. Michael Foster's in here. Alex, John Sarian. Let's see. WB2DX. Like Mike. Drew G. Jackson Johnson, Philip Medlin. Thank you guys all for getting in here. I'm sorry if I missed anybody. I tried to scroll up really quickly and hit everybody that's been in here in the last couple minutes. Thank you for getting in. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for hitting that like button with us. We really do appreciate you guys coming to hang out, watching me and Jordan's show, talk about the Clemson Tigers, which we love to do so much. And you guys really do make the show when you guys get in the comment section at the end of the show and really further the conversation. And we get to chop it up with you guys and see what you guys think about different things too, which sometimes is different than what we think, but that's why we're all here talking as fans, because we love the game. We love the Clemson Tigers. And we look forward to the game. Kickoff is at 8:00 this Saturday against the Florida Atlantic Owls. Don't forget, me and Jordan will be live immediately following the game. We'll do a post-game live. We'll be right here on this channel, whatever time that's over, whether it be 11:30, 11:45, 12. Who knows how long the game will run, but probably about 10 or so minutes after the clocks hit 0, just come over onto the Voice of College Football Clemson channel. Me and Jordan will be right here breaking down the game, giving our immediate reactions in the form of the post-game live. But I think that'll do it for today's show. Thank you guys so much for coming out. We will see you next Thursday, or actually we'll see you on the post-game live. And then remember the All-In Show right here on the Voice of College Football every Thursday at 7 p.m. with your boy Jordan Bowman over here. And I'm Tiger Paul Craven. Thank you so much for coming out. Go Tigers.
Later, y'all.